For years, Americans were told the future of the pickup truck had only two doors. Behind one door was gasoline familiar, loud, proven, and deeply tied to the identity of Ford, Chevy, and Ram. Behind the other door was the full electric truck, enormous battery, instant torque, futuristic design, and the promise that America could simply replace the gas tank with a massive pack under the floor. But what if that entire choice was already too narrow? The AVATR 07 EREV is not a pickup truck. It is not built for Texas ranches, Colorado trailers, or Michigan job sites. But inside, it sits something far more dangerous than its body shape, a new battery logic from CATL that says electrification does not need to mean carrying a giant battery everywhere. Enough electric range for daily life, fast charging when available, a gasoline generator only when distance becomes a threat. The danger is not the SUV. The danger is the idea behind it. And if that idea scales, Detroit may not be fighting another EV. It may be fighting a different definition of the American truck. In America, the pickup truck has never been just transportation. It is a work tool, a family machine, a farm vehicle, a job site partner, and in many places, a declaration of identity. The Ford F-Series, Chevrolet Silverado, and Ram 1500 are not just nameplates. They are part of the American industrial story. Steel torque payload towing long highways, and the belief that a truck should never make its owner feel weak. That is why electrifying the American truck was always more dangerous than electrifying a city crossover. A commuter can forgive inconvenience. A truck owner is different. A truck owner asks harder questions. What happens when I tow through Colorado? What happens when the temperature drops in Michigan? What happens when I drive across rural Texas and the next reliable charger is not where the map promised it would be? What happens when my trailer turns a simple charging stop into a logistical problem? Detroit understood part of this challenge. The Ford F-150 Lightning proved that an electric truck could be serious. It brought instant torque, useful work features, and the emotional weight of the F-150 badge into the EV era. Chevrolet answered with the Silverado EV, pushing the idea that a larger battery and longer rated range could make an electric pickup feel more normal to American buyers. Tesla went in a different direction, with the Cybertruck trying to attack the pickup category, not through tradition, but through shock, stainless steel, sharp geometry, and Silicon Valley confidence. But all three approaches still orbit the same assumption. If the battery is big enough, the problem can be solved. That assumption is powerful. It is also expensive. Bigger batteries mean more weight, more cost, more mineral pressure, more thermal management, and more stress on the charging network. On paper, the numbers can look impressive. In real life, the American truck buyer does not live on paper. He lives between job sites, highways, weatherfronts, trailers, hunting roads, boat ramps, and family obligations. This is where the AVATR 07 EREV becomes strategically uncomfortable. It does not try to outmuscle the F-150. It does not try to look tougher than a Silverado. It does not try to become a Cybertruck. Instead, it asks a more dangerous question. What if electrification does not need to carry every mile inside the battery? Because once that question becomes serious, America's EV truck bet starts to look less like destiny and more like one strategy among several. The traditional electric truck solution is brutally simple. If Americans fear running out of range, give them a bigger battery. That is the logic behind many full-size EVs. More kilowatt hours under the floor, more rated miles on the window sticker, more confidence on paper. But every additional battery cell carries a penalty. It adds weight, it adds cost. It demands more lithium, more nickel, more thermal management, and more charging time. At a certain point, the truck is no longer just carrying tools, passengers, or a trailer. It is carrying its own solution to fear. The AVATR 07 EREV points toward a different equation. Its current EREV configuration uses a CATL Freevoy super hybrid battery with 52.01 kilowatt hours capacity. a claimed 333 km CLTC pure electric range, and 1,200 km CLTC overall range. That is not the battery size of a giant American EV truck, but strategically, that is the point. It is not trying to carry every possible mile inside the battery. It carries enough electric range for the daily world, then uses the range extender when distance becomes unpredictable. In mechanical terms, this changes the role of the gasoline engine. It is no longer the main character. It becomes a backup power plant. The wheels can still live in an electric-first world, while the driver keeps a psychological bridge to liquid fuel. That is why this is dangerous for Detroit. It does not attack the American truck by being bigger. It attacks the assumption that bigger batteries are the only serious answer. Charging speed is not just an engineering number. In America, charging speed is trust. A truck owner does not think about charging the way a city EV owner thinks about charging. He thinks about time, weather, distance, and inconvenience. He asks whether a stop will become a delay. He asks whether a trailer will make the charger impossible to reach. He asks whether a rural station will work when he arrives. And he asks whether the vehicle will still feel like a truck when the battery is low. This is where the AVATR 07 becomes more than a specification sheet. AVATR says the 07's Freevoy pack supports a 5C peak charging rate and can charge from 30% to 80% in less than 10 minutes. CATL's newer second-generation Freevoy pushes the concept further, with the company saying it standardizes 10C superfast charging and extends all-electric range up to 600 kilometers. Think of a battery not just as a tank, but as a throat. Capacity tells you how much energy it can hold. Charging rate tells you how fast it can swallow energy without damaging itself. A large battery with a slow throat still creates waiting. A smaller hybrid battery with an extremely fast throat changes the rhythm of the trip. For American truck buyers, that rhythm matters. The real opponent is not only gasoline. The real opponent is the memory of gasoline 5 minutes back on the road, no calculation. The battery war is no longer one chemistry defeating another. It is becoming a war of combination. For years, the industry talked about LFP and NCM as if they belonged to separate philosophies. LFP is often associated with durability, safety, cost control, and lower dependence on nickel and cobalt. NCM is associated with higher energy density and stronger long-range potential. Each chemistry has strengths. Each has compromises. CATL's second-generation Freevoy is important because CATL describes it as a multi-chemistry system that integrates LFP and NCM materials through gradient uniform mixing at the powder particle level using the olivine crystal structure of LFP as the backbone. CATL says the LFP version can deliver up to 500 kilometers of pure electric range, while the NCM version can exceed 600 kilometers. That means the strategic question is not simply which battery is better. The question is, who can tune the chemistry, cost, charging curve, power output, and vehicle mission faster than everyone else? This is where the center of power moves. Detroit spent a century mastering engines, transmissions, axles, frames, and assembly scale. But in the electrified era, value migrates into cells, control, software, thermal systems, and charging behavior. If those layers are defined elsewhere, the automaker can still build the vehicle, but the deepest rules of performance are being written by the battery supplier. The next truck war may not be won under the hood. It may be won inside the battery cell. This is the most uncomfortable part for the American EV truck strategy. The range extender is no longer automatically a weakness. For years, EV purists treated range extenders as a compromise, a bridge technology, a hesitation, a refusal to fully commit. But the pickup market is not a purity contest. It is a use case battlefield. A truck that works only when the infrastructure is perfect is not enough for many American buyers. The country is too large, the weather is too uneven, and the job sites are too unpredictable. A full BEV truck doctrine says carry the entire answer in the battery. If the trip is long, carry more cells. If towing hurts, range carry more cells. If winter hurts, efficiency carry more cells. It is a clean idea, but it becomes heavy very quickly. The EREV doctrine says something different. Use electricity for the miles. Most people drive most of the time, then use onboard generation, when America becomes too large for the battery to comfortably handle. That does not erase emissions. It does not magically solve every problem, but it changes the fear equation. This is why Ram's own Ramcharger matters. Its existence shows that Detroit also sees the gap between full electric ambition and truck user reality. The uncomfortable question is whether Detroit will define this hybrid electric truck era itself, or whether companies like CATL will define the battery architecture first. AVATR 07 does not need to beat the F-150 on a ranch to matter. It only needs to prove that another electrification doctrine can feel more practical, less anxious, and less dependent on perfect infrastructure. And once that doctrine becomes credible, the giant battery pickup is no longer the inevitable future. Ford F-150. Lightning is the emotional center of this comparison because it carries the most important truck badge in America. It proved that an electric pickup could be powerful, usable, and serious. Ford says available F-150. Lightning configurations can tow up to 10,000 pounds, and the truck's range estimate system can account for conditions like temperature and towing. That matters because Ford clearly understands the real problem is not just power, it is prediction. A truck owner wants to know what the vehicle will do before the weather changes, before the trailer is attached, and before the highway turns empty. But the Lightning still lives inside the full BEV equation. More confidence still depends heavily on battery size charging access and software prediction. AVATR 07 attacks that equation from the side. It says maybe the truck does not need to carry every emergency mile in the battery. Maybe the smarter solution is enough electric range for normal life and a generator for the miles that refuse to behave normally. Chevrolet Silverado EV represents the other American answer. Go bigger. Go farther. Make the battery large enough to calm the customer. That approach is logical. Chevrolet says the 2026 Silverado EV offers up to 492 miles of range, which is an impressive number for a full-size electric pickup. But this strategy also reveals its own burden. Long range in a giant truck is not free. It has to be paid for in battery mass material supply, production cost, and eventually price discipline. Ram 1500 Ramcharger is the most uncomfortable benchmark because it proves Detroit is already thinking beyond pure BEV ideology. Ram's own range-extended truck uses a liquid-cooled 92 kilowatt-hour battery pack paired with a 130 kilowatt generator, while Stellantis has targeted up to 690 miles of total range. That is not a rejection of electrification. It is an admission that American truck usage may need a bridge technology with real muscle behind it. And this is where CATL becomes strategically dangerous. If Detroit builds the truck, but Asia defines the hybrid battery architecture, then America may own the badge while someone else owns the energy logic. Tesla's Cybertruck is the cultural opposite of AVATR 07. Cybertruck attacks tradition through design shock stainless steel and Silicon Valley confidence. Tesla lists Cybertruck towing capacity up to 11,000 pounds on major configurations, along with EPA estimated range around the low 300-mile zone for several versions. But the deeper issue is not whether Cybertruck is powerful. It is whether its vision of the future makes truck owners feel less anxious or more calculated. That is why AVATR 07 matters. It does not need to defeat any of these trucks on American pavement today. It only needs to expose the question none of them can avoid: is full battery electric really the final form of the American pickup? The AVATR 07 story is not really about one Chinese SUV. It is about where power moves when the automobile stops being defined by the engine and starts being defined by the energy system. In the 20th century, Detroit's strength lived in engines, transmissions, Axles, frame, engineering, union, labor, dealer networks, and manufacturing scale. Those were the weapons that built the American truck empire. But electrification moves the center of gravity. It pulls value into battery chemistry, cell manufacturing, thermal control, charging curves, power electronics, software calibration, and supply chain discipline. The company that masters those layers does not merely supply a component. It influences how the entire vehicle behaves. That is why CATL matters so much in this story. CATL is not simply making a battery for a AVATR-07. It is helping define the logic of a vehicle that can drive electrically in daily life, charge quickly when infrastructure is available, and use onboard generation when distance or geography becomes hostile. If that logic spreads into large SUVs and trucks, the economic question becomes brutal. Who owns the most valuable part of the future vehicle? Tariffs can slow the vehicle. They can raise the cost of imported batteries. They can protect domestic production for a period of time. The US has already used tariffs and supply chain rules to reduce dependence on Chinese battery inputs, and analysts continue to warn that tariff regimes can materially affect battery and component imports. But tariffs cannot automatically create better chemistry. They cannot instantly build cell expertise. They cannot turn a protection wall into an innovation engine by themselves. This is the uncomfortable reality for Ford, GM, and Stellantis. They can build world-class trucks. They can design frames, cabins, towing systems, suspension packages, and worksite features that American buyers understand. But if the battery cell, the charging behavior, the chemistry roadmap, and the cost curve are controlled somewhere else, then Detroit risks owning the body while another country defines the heartbeat. The labor question is just as serious. Union jobs built the American auto industry, but the highest value jobs of the next era may not only be on final assembly lines. They may be in cathode processing, cell design, battery management software, thermal systems, and fast charging infrastructure. If America protects assembly, but loses the energy stack, it protects the visible factory, while losing the invisible engine. And this is why AVATR 07 matters beyond China. It shows that the next industrial war may not be decided by who builds the biggest electric truck. It may be decided by who builds the smartest energy system around the truck. America can block the vehicle, but can it block the technology curve? The AVATR 07 EREV will not replace the Ford F-150. That is not the real point. It will not walk into Texas tomorrow and erase the Silverado. It will not convince every Ram owner to abandon decades of truck loyalty. It will not make the Cybertruck irrelevant overnight. Thinking that way misses the deeper warning. The real threat is not that one Chinese SUV beats one American truck. The real threat is that AVATR 07 shows a different path to electrification, enough battery for daily life fast charging when the grid is ready, and onboard generation when distance becomes hostile. That formula attacks the weakest part of the giant battery pickup strategy. Not horsepower, not torque, not technology theater, but anxiety. Because in the American truck market, anxiety is expensive. It changes what people buy. It changes what fleets trust. It changes what investors believe. And eventually, it changes which companies control the future. CATL Freevoy turns the hybrid battery from a compromise into a strategic weapon. And Detroit should pay attention. The question is no longer whether America can build an electric truck. It can. The question is whether America is building the right kind of electric truck before the rest of the world changes the definition. Reference notes. AVATR official, 07 page. AVATR 07 EREV battery capacity charging and range claims. CATL official news second generation Freevoy super hybrid battery LFP/NCM claims 10C super fast charging and 500 to 600 kilometers electric range claims. Ford official F-150 lightning page towing and range estimation context. Chevrolet official Silverado EV page 2026. Silverado EV range claim. Ram/Stellantis official Ramcharger materials 92 kilowatt-hour pack generator and targeted total range. Tesla official Cybertruck page towing and range context. CSIS Battery Industry Analysis, U.S. Tariffs and Battery Supply Chain Context.